Hola, hola, hola. Who's with me? Who's ready for some Dallas James tonight? Some Rico. Rico. Who's with me? Hey, Carly. What you doing, sister? Long time no see. Are you ready for some Rico? Are you ready for some good old sexy sex? Who is with me? If you are having a hard time seeing commenting, if you're having a hard time commenting on my you know what? I think it's just me and you right now, Carly. Did you get to see last night's? Did you go back and watch last night's? Hey, Miss Surly. Carly, last night's was just as cute. It was so good. And it was down here in my home area. It was written as Nashville, which is only about 2 hours away. Wished I was drinking last night. I had to function this morning, so I couldn't be drinking last night. Hello, hello, hello. Who's with us? Okay. If you see my head, tap on it just one time. This is a chat screen. For those that for those that are having a hard time finding the chat. You have Secrets by Dallas James? Yay! Can't wait to read it. I can't keep up with your books up, Carly. You've got so many out there, and I can't. I just have to. I know the names of a bunch of them. I just don't know when they've been printed or when they've been published and when they haven't been. I can't keep up with them. But I know the girls are going to be happy about that. They like it when I read your stuff. Dad nabbit. I hate it when my stuff freezes up. Thank you. Yes. Cock and Bull, the series. The Sugar Plum Fairy, Elves After Dark. Ooh. I just read them as you give them to me. I mean, I'm so far behind on your books right now, it's not even funny. I just wait till series are done and then I read a whole series. Where's Nina? Jackie probably won't be on here for a little while. Unless maybe she's driving somewhere because she's got studying to do. She's trying to get certified for some work stuff. So, Rico de Maras. Yeah, I don't think I need to be trying any accents for that. I just highlighted something. I don't even know what I highlighted. Okay, there. Who, Nina or Jackie? Where's my new sister from another mister at? He's supposed to be here tonight. I just talked to him. My new bitch ain't here. Dallas is here. Arr. Hi, Dallas. How are you, darling? Welcome to the hen house. Where the crazier it is, the better off we are. Dallas is in the house. Thank you for letting me read your book. I appreciate it so much. Last night's author, Mr. Blake Allwood, will be here in just a minute. Dallas, let me ask you a question. Is this a standalone book or do you need to read book 1 first? And we will enjoy it. Don't you worry. We're crazy bitches. Of course we're going to enjoy it. Who doesn't enjoy gay romance? Hello. Bitches love gay romance. It's sweeter than... Hi, Blake, my bitch. Cackling hens, my ass. I learned to cackle right. I got a damn master rooster out here that likes to come around and boss me around. Stand alone, but the 2 characters from book 1 make appearance. Okay. I was just curious because I have one. And that's what I was planning on reading. And then you guys came back and said that we were here. Okay, novellas. I told Nina, I said, this is short. I don't know if I'll be able to read an hour's worth in it or not, but let's see. Yeah. Oh, you got some long. Well, no, they're not real long chapters. Can I read the first 3 chapters without giving anything away? I mean, this is my next, or not this book. I want to read the first book first. But I like to read the books in order. Oh my gosh. I just want to say the Rico's playlist. Oh my gosh. That playlist is so awesome. And you have Air Supply on there? Yes! I love Air Supply. I loved Air Supply in the 80s. I love Air Supply. You're just missing some Elton John. Why do you not have any Elton John on here? But damn, you even got some Alabama on there. Oh, you're talking to my Georgia girl heart here. Did you know that my uncle, back when they were teenagers, used to run around with the boys from the band Alabama. Yep. Yeah. Ah, see, I told you. I got to read that one first. So, really? Blake, stop it, bitch. I'm telling you. Blake and I have discovered today, well, the past 48 hours, he and I have talked, and we are pretty sure we're twins. Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I grew up in the very northwest corner of Georgia on the Tennessee Alabama line. And there's a there's a little bitty county up there called Dade County, and the city seat is Trenton, Georgia. Well, Fort Payne, where Alabama is from, is only 30-45 minutes south of there on I-59. I mean, it's just literally the next town down. So, not the next community down, because there's about 60 communities between there, but the next town down. And so Alabama was nothing for us. I mean, that's just hometown people, you know? And I was telling all of them last night that Leslie Jordan is from Chattanooga, which is basically my home big town here. Even though I grew up in Georgia, I still consider Chattanooga as my hometown. And my boyfriend, who is 20 years older than me, went to school with Leslie. They didn't hang out together, but they knew each other. Leslie was a few years behind Mike, but yeah, they went to school together. Mike says he's a good guy. So yeah, hello. All right, are we ready to get started? Let me read this list first. This is Rico's playlist, y'all. I just got to read it. When You Close Your Eyes by Night Ranger, Your Wildest Dreams, The Moody Blues, Any Way You Want It by Journey. That Nina said that's one of her favorites. Take a Chance on Me by ABBA. Can't Keep a Good Man Down by Alabama. My Kind of Lover, Billy Squire. If You Want My Love by Cheap Trick. Believe by Cher. I Woke Up in Love This Morning, The Partridge Family. Sharing the Night Together, Dr. Hook. Two Less Lonely People in the World, Air Supply. If I'd have thought about it ahead of time, I'd have had an Air Supply going tonight. I Think I'm in Love by Eddie Money. I'd Really Love to See You Tonight by England Dan and John Ford Coley. And Do You Believe in Love? Huey Lewis and the News. Yeah, you don't want me to sing. Alrighty. Played in the Sweetwater Band and started for Alabama. Oh, really? Blake. I'm telling you, Blake. I'm telling you. Okay, so anyway, chapter 1. This is a cock and bull pub story, y'all. Rico is it Damaras or Damaras? Oh, I have that southern accent, Dallas. It fit real good with Blake's book last night. I don't know where is your book based at? Because I don't even know. This is a Georgia Mountain, Chattanooga accent. Damaras. Thumb hovered over the send button on the text he'd just typed out. It should have been a no-brainer to say yes to a night of mindless fucking with no strings attached that he occasionally enjoyed with Basil Landry. Mara. San Fran. Damn it, I can't do no California accents. We're going to have to move this to LA, which is Lower Alabama. Alrighty. Or Las Vegas. Now, we got Las Vegas over here. That's in Rossville. Las Vegas, I can do a Las Vegas accent. Okay. I will try to clean up my accent just a little bit so it's not quite so bad. The two men had been acquaintances for years following a random hookup one night. Rico wouldn't go so far to Rico wouldn't go so far as to say they were friends since 90% of the time they spent together was getting each other off. He knew the basics about Basil, his name. Ooh, sugar, they can't handle sweet lips. He knew the basics about Basil, his name, age, phone number, his occupation, which is a mechanic, and the fact he never fucked anyone without a condom, nor did he smoke or do drugs. He also had an incredibly talented mouth. But beyond all that, Rico knew little about the man. He had no idea if Basil had brothers or sisters, if he had any family he was close to, or even if he was originally from San Francisco or had grown up somewhere else before moving to the Bay Area. Basil knew just as little about Rico. It's how the two men preferred to keep their relationship. Whenever they both found themselves unattached, they hooked up, plain, simple, and uncomplicated. Vincy, where's my number 2 bitch at? She should have been here by now. That makes me nervous. If it'd been any other night than Wednesday, Rico wouldn't have hesitated. His staff at the Cock and Bull, the bar restaurant he owned, could handle things while he took the rest of the night off, so that wasn't why he was wavering. Nope. The reason why he couldn't press the damn button was because he might walk in. He was a 6'2", 200-pound, delicious man named Evan. Hell, if Rico didn't even know the guy's last name, Rico didn't even know the guy's last name, but that hadn't stopped Rico from lusting after him. I don't even have to know his name. I have fucked people without knowing more than their first name. That's not a bad thing. Well, maybe it is, but that's beside the point. Evan had been coming in every Wednesday night at 6:30 for the past 7 weeks like clockwork. He sat at the end of the bar, ordered a burger or sandwich for dinner, had a few beers, and chatted with the staff and other patrons. If there was a Giants baseball game on, he'd watch it for a while and cheer and groan with everyone else, depending on if the local team was winning or losing. He was in his late 30s with a fine physique and was so damn good looking he made Rico's mouth water. With light brown hair, chocolate colored eyes, and classic features, he garnered the attention of men and women alike, but never returned their interest. At least not that Rico had noticed. Evan always seemed a bit shy whenever anyone hit on him, but he never appeared insulted if it was a guy. In fact, Rico knew some of the regulars were trying to figure out whether Evan was gay, straight, or bi without coming right out and asking him. Either way, it wouldn't bother anyone since the Cock and Bull catered to many of the LGBTQ community. God, we got to come up with a shorter term for that. I'm surprised I didn't stumble all over that. I usually end up missing a letter or 3. Over the past year and a half, the C&B had become a popular place. Why'd you shorten it to C&B? I like Cock and Bull. The Cock and Bull had become a popular place for both locals and tourists, no matter their sexual orientation. Occasionally, the bouncers needed to toss a few bigots out the door, but it didn't happen often. If Rico had to guess, Evan was in the closet. There'd been several times while looking through the reflection in the mirror behind the bar, Rico had caught Evan eyeing him with a lustful expression that he would quickly hide again before anyone would notice. Rico had even tried a little subtle flirting with the guy last week, but all Evan had done was blush, finish his beer, and say he had to get home. It drove Rico nuts. He couldn't get a beat on the guy. And the last thing he wanted was to be someone's experiment or dirty little secret. But he couldn't stop watching the door. and the clock, waiting for Evan to stroll in. He was just about to say fuck it and hit send on his phone when the object of his growing obsession arrived, looking yummy in jeans and a blue Henley. Mm. Evan greeted the hostess, Alina, as he did each week, then headed for an open stool at the end of the bar. Since the other bartender, Austin Haynes, was busy making some mixed drinks, Rico poured a Coors Light draft, ambled over to Evan, and set it down in front of the man, who chuckled. Thanks, Rico. If you know what I want before I even order it, I guess that means I'm a regular now. Rico hated how much it turned him on to hear this man say his name in that rumbling voice that he felt all the way to his toes. And what was up with his cock's reaction to Evan's statement about knowing what he wanted? If the man knew what Rico really wished Evan wanted him from him, he'd probably leave and never come back. Why the fuck did he have to be attracted to the closeted ones? Been there, done that, had the bruises to his heart to remind him it was a bad idea to get involved with any guy who was too mortified to admit he was into men and not women. Rico forced himself to treat the hunk like he did all the other patrons. Guess so. Want a menu? Evan glanced at one of the boards hanging on the walls around the restaurant, announcing the night's specials. Nah, don't bother. The whiskey burger sounds good. I'll have that. Medium rare, please. You got it. Thankfully, the next few hours were busy because it kept Rico from constantly ogling Evan, although he had to suffer through watching Evan get hit on by two men and one woman. Perverse satisfaction stole through him when all three had gotten shot down. Politely, of course. Around 9 p.m., Rico's friends Scout Turner and Alex Shepard walked in, surprising him because of the late hour. Scout was a self-made millionaire and the founder and CEO of Turner Continental, which owned several hotels and apartment complexes, including the Paradox Hotel and Residencies across the street from the Cock and Bull. The hotel took up the first 28 floors, while condos were located on the next 14. Rico lived on the 32nd, while Scout and Alex's home was one of the two penthouses. He and Scout had known each other since they'd met when their individual elementary schools funneled into one middle school. When Rico's parents had been killed in a car accident at the end of the sophomore year of high school, he'd had to move in with his aunt, uncle, and cousins in another school district. Despite that, Rico and Scout had stayed close, and Rico thanked God for that friendship on more than one occasion. In fact, if it hadn't been for Scout, the Cock and Bull would still be Rico's pipe dream. When Rico had had trouble getting a bank loan to open the bar, Scout had stepped in and become a silent partner. At first, Rico had turned his friend down, but the bastard could be relentless when he wanted his way. In the end, the only way Rico had been willing to accept the money was if it was considered a loan that he'd repay, and thanks to the success of the CMB, he had no trouble making the monthly payments with interest to Scout. About a year ago, Scout had hired Alex as his new personal assistant and had winded up breaking his steadfast rule of not dating or fucking any of his employees. Alex had actually been in high school with Rico's cousin Gino, but they were both a few years younger than him, and he hadn't remembered Alex from school when Scout had introduced them. Rico liked to think a conversation he had had with his friend a few months later had prompted Scout to take a chance on love, which the man finally had. Back in December, right before Christmas, Scout and Alex had gotten engaged while on a trip to New York City. The wedding was going to take place in October, with Rico being Scout's best man and Alex's sister standing up for him. Rico was annoyed to feel relieved when Scout and Alex took the two now empty stools next to Evan on the short end of the bar, hoping it would cut down on the number of people hitting on the man. Evan's stool was in the corner next to the wall, so there was little space for someone wanting to squeeze past the other two men to talk to him. Tossing two cardboard coasters onto the bar in front of Scout and Alex, Rico said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here this late?" Scout was the one to answer. "Just came from the art gallery that's handling Rex's exhibition. Tonight was a private showing before the gala on Saturday. You're going, right?" Scout was the one to answer. Uh, Rex Adams was a friend. Sorry, you guys are cracking me up. Rex was a friend of Scout's and Rico's and a well sought after artist of late. After years of hard work, Rex's career had finally taken off about 20 months ago. That was after movie star Magnus Keller, who lived in the Paradox penthouse opposite Scout and Alex's, had done a recorded interview from the sanctity of his San Francisco home. When the female reporter had asked who the artist was of the stunning painting that hung in his living room, he told her about Rex, whose art also graced some of the walls in the lobby of the hotel downstairs. Rex hadn't even known about the interview until his phone had started ringing off the hook. Since then, he'd been selling paintings like crazy. Canvases that they'd been in storage for years now hung in the homes of some of the wealthiest people around the world. To say the guy was still shell shocked was an understatement. Wouldn't miss it for the world. I'm glad he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. Rico had always known his friend had talent, and it would only be a matter of time before everyone else knew it too. In fact, he probably had two of Rex's paintings on display in his living room, having been gifted them as he proudly. I thought of that. Me and mom. If I put my glasses on, you guys ain't gonna be able to see me. Then I gotta move this back. He proudly had two of Rex's paintings on display in his living room, having been gifted them as housewarming presents when he'd moved into his condo. Right. If we'd have known all it would have taken was for Mag to open his big mouth, he would have been a hit years ago. What can I get for you two? The usual? Scout glanced at his fiancee, who nodded. Why break tradition? Rico chuckled, then went and retrieved a Guinness draft for Alex and a Grey Goose and club soda with a twist of lime for Scout. By the time he got the drinks to them, they were in a full-blown conversation with Evan about the NFL draft that was coming up the following weekend. As he put the glasses down on the bar, Evan stuck his hand out to Scout. By the way, I'm Evan Calhoun. Rico's longtime friend accepted the handshake. Scout Turner, and this is my fiance, Alex Shepard. For those that don't know, Ori is Nina, or you can call her Oreo, or as of today, she is bitch number 2. And but running late, she might just move her ass down to bitch number 3. Evan Evan shook hands with Alex. Nice to meet you. Wait a minute. Scout Turner, as in Turner Continental, as in the hotel across the street. Both Scout and Alex nodded, and Rico held his breath. Usually, people freaked out and started falling all over themselves when they realized they were sitting next to a multimillionaire, a hotel magnate, but Evan surprised him. My nephew Billy just started working for you. Well, for the restaurant in there. He's the best boy. Nina, darling, I will always love you. But your bitch level is on the line here. Just saying. Unless you get me some more books like these two. The one last night tonight. Because I have absolutely been enjoying these. Scout smile. Blonde hair, tall as hell for a 17-year-old. His face lit up when he realized the wealthy man next to him knew who a lowly busboy was. Yeah, that's him. He's a good kid and doing great. Sapphire's was the upscale restaurant off the lobby of the hotel, and there was rarely a night when it wasn't filled to capacity. Thanks. My sister told him if he wants a car, she'd help him get it, but he has to pay for the gas and insurance. My son Brian almost had a heart attack when Billy told him Magnus Keller, the movie star. When Scout and Alex just smiled and nodded, Evan continued, Well, he was there for dinner, and Billy said his hand shook any time he had to refill the guy's water or breadbasket. Yeah, Mag's a real nice guy, Alex said, but I don't blame your nephew for being starstruck around him. The first time I met him, I couldn't think of a single thing to say to him until Scout made me down a few shots of whiskey. Then I couldn't shut up. His cheeks reddened as his fiancée laughed at him. It was very embarrassing. Scout doesn't let me forget it, but Mag was really cool about it. Now I'm used to him living across the hall from us. While the three men continued to chat about a bunch of things, Rico covertly studied Evan. It hadn't escaped his attention that Evan had a son. It had Rico wondering if the man had been married. There was no ring on his left hand and no sign that one was normally worn, but had been removed for the night. Like he usually did on Wednesday evenings, Rico tried to pick up more details Evan might drop about himself. But a bunch of businessmen and women had walked over from a late meeting at the Paradox, crowding around the bar, and Rico had needed to focus on helping Austin fill the drink orders. About an hour later, they'd gotten things under control again. Most of the patrons had headed out for the night, needing to get some sleep before tomorrow's workday began. Austin would be able to close up without any problems with the help of Reggie, one of the barbacks. The question was now closed, and there were only a few tables lingering, and one waitress and a busboy would be sticking around for a little while longer. Scout and Alex stood from their stools as Rico approached them. Done for the night? Yeah, Scout responded as he left a large tip, which would go into Austin's jar. As the owner of the Cock and Bull, Rico never kept any tips while working the bar, leaving them for his staff. They worked hard and deserved every penny. We're flying up to Seattle tomorrow to check on things, and we'll be back Friday. Last year, Paradox North had opened in Oregon and was doing as well as Turner Continental's other properties. Scout had the golden touch when it came to hotels and other business ventures. Have fun. I'll see you on Saturday. Don't forget it's black tie. His eyebrows shot up. Seriously? Scout chuckled. Didn't you read the invite? Just the date and time. Crap, I hate wearing freaking ties. Jeans and a sports jacket over a t-shirt were about as dressed up as Rico liked to get, even though he'd been told numerous times over the years by both men and women that he rocked a suit or a tux. Alex laughed. You can easily pull off a Frank Sinatra and leave the tie hanging with the top button of your shirt open. He does look fucking sexy when he's being the rebel, doesn't he? Scout joked to his fiancée, causing Rico to roll his eyes. They didn't have to worry about Alex's reaction to Scout calling Rico sexy. The man knew his future husband was madly in love with him. And even though Rico and Scout had figured out in high school they were both gay, they'd never experimented with each other. It would have been like kissing a brother, and the thought had just grossed them both out. That didn't mean that teasing each other wasn't done all the time. Rico pointed out the door. Out. Get out. Alex, take him home. The two men laughed at his expense as they strode out the door, and Rico just stood there shaking his head. When Evan threw money down on the bar to cover his bill, along with a generous tip, and got to his feet to leave as well, Rico tried to fight back his disappointment. Now he'd have to wait another whole week to see him again. Not that he'd been doing anything other than silently lusting after the man. Well, I'm out of here too. Have a good night, Rico. Night, Evan. Rico was about to turn away when he noticed the other man hesitate after taking a few steps toward the door. He seemed to be having a small battle with himself, and Rico swore he heard him mutter, "Just fucking do it already," before stepping back to the bar. Rico lifted his brow and waited to hear what the man wanted. Evan took a deep breath and asked, would you like to, I don't know, go somewhere for a cup of coffee or something? That was the last thing Rico had expected the man to say, and he just stared at him for a moment. There was no one else at the end of the bar, so any conversation would be between them. Before Rico could formulate a response, Evan ran a hand down his face and added, "You know what? Never mind. Sorry, I'm not good at this." Before Evan could turn away, Rico reached across the bar and grabbed his arm, stopping him. It took him a few seconds to weigh his words, but the longer he pondered what he wanted to say, the more annoyed he got. Physically, he definitely wanted the other man, but he doubted they were on the same page. Look, I don't date anyone in the closet, and I refuse to be someone's experiment. So if that's what's going on here, I'll pass. There was a long pause, and then Evan nodded. And if it's not, because I've been out for over a year and I've already done enough experimenting with the guys who didn't mean a thing, I'm done with that. What I meant when I said I wasn't good at this is I've never asked a guy on a date before. A wry smile ghosted his face. Hell, I haven't asked anyone out on a date in about 25 years. My ex-wife and I were high school sweethearts. You're bi? Rico had nothing against anyone who was bisexual, but he was only into guys and didn't like dating anyone who might want to bring a woman into the mix. He held his breath as he waited for a response. Chapter 2. Evan was fucking this up. The first time he'd been in Cock and Bull was on a Wednesday 8 weeks ago when a bunch of people from the radio station where he worked had gone for someone's birthday. At some point during the evening, he noticed the hot bartender on the other side of the room from the table his group had been seated at. After that, he had had a hard time keeping his gaze off him. Thankfully, the only one who'd noticed him ogling the 6-foot hunk with tattoos peeking out from the short sleeves of his black t-shirt was his friend Lily Albert, who worked in the advertising department at KCXN. She'd been sitting next to him and leaned over to whisper, "He's yummy, isn't he? He swings your way, too. Last I heard, he's single. His name is Rico DeMara, and he owns the place." When Evan had stared at her, shocked over the fact she knew all that, she just laughed. "I know his name, and that he's the owner because he advertises with us. As for the rest of the info, when I was here last Saturday with a few girlfriends, we flirted with him and another bartender, not the cute blonde one that's working tonight. Anyway, the other guy said we were barking up the wrong tree with Rico. When Donna said she had a friend she could hook Rico up with, he was if he was interested. He said he wasn't dating anyone, but he also doesn't do blind dates." "Jesus, woman, do you know his shoe size too?" He had been his hoarse response. She smirked and said, "My guess is he's a size 13, which means he's probably got a really nice package." No, you can't go by that. Trust me. His shirt wasn't tucked in the other night, so I can't say for sure. Of course. I can't say for sure, of course. Evan had practically choked on that. Since that night, he'd been coming in every Wednesday for a few hours in an attempt to get to know the man better, all the while trying to come up with the courage to ask him out. All Rico had to do was say hello, and Evan's knees got weak. Evan had given himself a deadline to finally ask Rico on a date, and tonight was the night. Now he wasn't sure if it'd been a big mistake. No, I'm not bi. I just spent 20 years in denial. When I told my wife, she wasn't exactly surprised. Said she'd suspected I was struggling to admit to myself I was gay over the last 5 years of our marriage. We got divorced last year, and without arguing, I have hard times with some words, guys. Okay, and I came out around the same time. Lost some friends and family members over it, but I'm done trying to convince myself I'm something I'm not. He was going to end his little speech there, but in for a penny, in for a pound, as his grandmother used to say. As for the experimenting, I hit some clubs after Susan and I separated, and I hooked up with a few guys. Not exactly proud of the fact I never got more than their first names, but I had to make sure. He was surprised when Rico nodded. Damn, the man was attractive, like drool-worthy attractive. His hazel eyes appeared more green than brown tonight, and his dark brown hair was long on the top and back, with it fading to very short on the sides. The 5 o'clock shadow that graced his jawline and upper lip just added to his allure. The gray cock and bull t-shirt he wore was taut across his muscular shoulders, chest, abs, and biceps, and was tucked into a snug and faded pair of blue jeans. And Lily would be happy to know that under the denim, the man did have a nice looking package to go with a tight round ass. Anyway, Evan continued, I've been on a few dates recently, but they've always asked me out. I never look. I like you, Rico. I'm attracted to you and would like to get to know you better. I was hoping we could do that somewhere other than where you work, but if you're not interested, I am. A shiver went down Evan's spine as those two words spoken in Rico's deep baritone voice skirted over his skin. You are? Smirking, Rico chuckled. Yeah, I am. Give me about 10 minutes to take care of a few things before we leave. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks away that's open all night. Shocked and a little delirious, Evan nodded and sat back down on the stool. Holy shit. He'd done it. He'd managed to finally get the nerve to ask the guy out, and he said yes. Wow. Okay, play it cool, Ev. Don't rush things or sound desperate. Keep the conversation neutral and don't talk too much. And for God's sake, stop your hands and knees from shaking like there's a damn earthquake. As Evan paid for their coffees, Rico picked up the 2 cups the barista had placed on the counter, then gestured to an empty table next to the large window by the front door. Over there, okay? Evan nodded like a bobblehead doll. Yeah, that's fine. Rico strode over, trying not to laugh at the other man's obvious nervousness. It'd been a long time since Rico had been on a date with someone who was so unsure of himself. He actually found it endearing. He set the cups on the table and then decided to be a gentleman and remained standing until Evan joined him before taking a seat. Sitting across from him, Evan took a sip of his coffee. Rico waited in silence for a few moments, watching Evan try to think of something to start a conversation, then took pity on him. You mentioned earlier you have a kid. Brian, was it? A grateful look crossed Evan's face. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I have 2 boys. Brian's 17 and Mark is 14. How'd they take the divorce and you coming out? Evan shrugged, then his shoulders relaxed. How does any kid take their folks getting a divorce? It kind of hit them out of the blue. They had no idea there were any problems. In fact, aside from me finally admitting I'm gay, Susan and I had a good marriage. She became my best friend when we started dating our sophomore year. She still is. She took my announcement better than anyone. I just feel bad I didn't tell her sooner. She deserves to find someone who can love her in the way that I can't. I do love her, but I'm not in love with her. I'm not sure if I ever was. Getting married and having kids seemed like what I was supposed to do. Brian and Mark were a bit shocked when I came out to them, but they seem to be okay with it now. What about you? Have you always known you were gay, or did you have any trouble figuring it out? Swallowing a sip of his coffee, Rico nodded. Yeah, I figured it out when I was a freshman in high school. Ironically, my best friend realized he was gay around the same time. If you're on here and you are not able to chat and you would like to, just tap on my picture and the chat screen should come up, but just tap it once. Scout, yeah. Did you two ever? His eyes widened in shock and embarrassment. Never mind, that's none of my business. Rico smiled. Don't worry about it. No, we never hooked up, never even kissed. We're close like brothers, and they just felt too weird to even. Hold on. We're close like brothers, and that was just felt too weird to even think about it. We did talk to each other about what we did with other guys, but that was it. How did you two meet? We lived a few blocks away from each other, but were in different elementary schools. He sat next to me in school in social studies the first day of middle school, introduced himself, and asked if I was a Giants or an A's fan. I said I was a diehard Giants fan. He slapped me on the shoulder and said, Thank fuck. I thought I was going to have to kick your ass. I laughed so hard because he was 4 inches shorter and about 30 pounds lighter than me at the time. Turns out I found the best friend I could ever ask for. Evan grinned, and Rico couldn't keep his gaze off the man's dimples. They were sexy and turning him on. He subtly shifted his hips, trying to give his hardening cock some breathing room, and steered the conversation to something more serious as a way to get his body under control. Scout was there for me at some of the worst times in my life. At the end of the 10th grade, my folks were killed in a car accident. I was an only child. My aunt and uncle, my dad's brother, took me in, and I had to switch school districts because of where they lived. Scout never let me go, though. Despite being living across town from each other and going to different schools, he was always there for me. There'd been many more occasions Scout had been there to hold Rico's. There had been many more occasions Scout had been there to hold Rico's hand and get him through some bad times, and Rico would be forever grateful for his best friend. However, now wasn't the time to get into all of that. He and Evan would have to would have to be a lot farther into a relationship before he would spill his guts about everything he'd gone through since his parents had died. Reaching over, Evan set his hand on top of the one Rico had rested on the table. I'm sorry for your loss. It's hard at any age to lose your parents, but no more than when you're still a kid. Dallas, I'll tell you something about pronouncing words here in a little bit. See. Rico felt a tingling shoot from his fingers all the way up his arm at the warm touch. He turned his palm over and squeezed Evan's hand before letting go and picking up his cup. Thanks. He cleared his throat and took a sip of his cooling coffee. Okay, let's get off the more morose topics. I just realized I don't even know what you do for a living. The tension surrounding them lifted. I'm a broadcast engineer, otherwise known as a sound technician for the radio station KCXN. I usually work from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, but I occasionally pick up some overtime when any of the other techs call out sick or take vacation. So you work with Bentley and Barrett, the sportscasters? I listen to them every morning. Yep. And then I cover Morrison and Savage. Rico snorted. Sorry to hear that. When Evan's eyebrows went up and he tilted his head, Rico shrugged and said, Sorry, but Savage came into the bar one night. He thinks mighty highly of himself. I wasn't impressed. Evan toasted him with his cup. Well, then, that makes two of us. He is a bit of an ass, but you didn't hear that from me. Hear what? He asked with a grin as he touched his cup to the one Evan held up. They spent about 2 hours and another round of coffee talking and getting to know each other on a more personal level. As much as he hated to end the night, Rico knew Evan needed to get some sleep if he had to be at work at 6 in the morning. It's getting late. Where did you park? I'll walk you to your car. God help him. Evan licked the bottom lip before answering him. It stirred up the desire Rico had been trying to hold at bay all night. What he wouldn't give to invite the other man back to his condo where they could spend hours pleasuring each other. But something in him said Evan was special, and the worst thing he could do was rush things and fall into bed with him for a quick fuck. We passed my truck on the way here. Great. They tossed their empty cups into the trash by the door, then stepped out into the night. Their walk was in silence, but not uncomfortable. Rico had the urge to reach over and grasp the other man's hand in his, but he hesitated too long because Evan stopped next to the late model Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. This is me. Rico eyed the vehicle. Nice ride. Thanks. When Evan didn't make a move to get into the truck, Rico stepped toward him, forcing the man to back up until his ass hit the door. But Rico didn't stop closing the distance until barely a breath separated them. He studied Evan's face, making certain the man was okay with what was happening. He was relieved to see desire and need in those chocolate brown eyes. Rico knew if he took one more step, smashing their bodies together, he wouldn't be able to control himself. So instead, he cupped Evan's jaw, then leaned forward and brushed his lips over Evan's. He wasn't even sure if the moan he heard had come from Evan or himself, but he didn't care. Rico caressed Evan's lips again before pulling the upper one between his own. Evan's mouth was soft and supple as Rico used his tongue to entice him into opening up. When Evan's lips parted, Rico swept in for a taste. This time, when he heard a moan, he knew it'd come from Evan. Their tongues slid against each other as they made out on the sidewalk. Obvious to anyone walking by, Evan settled his fist on Rico's hips as if needing to touch him knowing if he opened his hands, he'd lose control and be all over him. Since I'm an exhibitionist, being on the street would matter. Reining in his passion, Rico gave Evan one last sweet kiss before releasing him. Ignoring his hard-on begging for relief, Rico took a step back, pleased to see Evan was breathing heavy and licking his lips, as if savoring Rico's taste. Rico was about to say he'd had a good time tonight, but then an idea occurred to him. Do you want a tuxedo? Huh? He chuckled. A tuxedo, a penguin suit. He heard. You heard Scout and Alex talking about the gala this Saturday for our friend's art show. I was told to bring a date, but I don't have one. I thought maybe you'd like to go with me. When Evan pursed his lips and hesitated, Rico's heart sank, but then Evan said, I'd love to go, but I know absolutely nothing about art. Who said I knew anything about it? He asked with a chuckle. I'm going because Rex is my friend. If anyone asks what you think about one of his paintings, just say you like the composition and the artist's sense of balance. If there's a contrast between light and dark, you can mention that too. Evan laughed. Where did you learn that? Rex told me all that before I went to his first show so I wouldn't feel like an idiot. Scout is also a good person to stand next to. He understands all that shit better than I do, or at least he can fake it enough to sound like he does. Alex and I don't stray far from him at art shows. If someone asks us something about a painting, we pawn the question off on Scout. We've gotten pretty good at it. Well, then, yeah, I'm game. I've got a tux too. Splurged on one a few years ago after I had to keep renting one for award shows. Rico let his gaze roam down Evan's body and began and back up again. I bet you look hot in it too. The man blushed. I have a feeling I'll pale in comparison to you in one. Stepping in and brushing his lips across Evan's again, Rico whispered, I doubt you I doubt you pale in comparison to anyone, sweetheart. Don't let me hear you put yourself down again. You're sexy as fuck, and I've wanted you since the first night you were at my bar with that group. When Evan's eyes grew wide, Rico nipped at his jaw. Oh, yeah, I noticed you that night. Pissed me off. We were so busy I couldn't get your name and number. Evan gulped. Why didn't you say anything when I started coming in every week? I picked up on your nervousness. He quickly put two and two together. And you thought I was closeted or newly outed. Yep, but I'm glad I was wrong. Let me have your phone. Rico moved back and held out his hand. After Evan swiped the screen, he gave him the cell. Rico put my phone's being blown up for some reason tonight. Y'all, I apologize. After Evan swiped the screen, he gave him the cell. Rico put in his number and then hit send to connect to his own phone. When it rang in his pocket, he disconnected the call and gave the device back to Evan. The gala starts at 8. It's only a few blocks from here. If you don't mind driving, you can pick me up across the street. My condo's in the Paradox. Yeah, that sounds great. And with a final peck on the lips, Rico said, Yes, it does. All righty, everybody. Tally ho. What's everybody think? Dallas, I'm loving this book. When I finish Blake's book from last night, I'm gonna read Scouts first. I just like to read them in order, sorry. Oh, Vincy, I know you love the voices. Oh, Dallas, what I was going to say is a lot of authors, and I've been known to do it myself, but this is how I kind of learned that it happened because in school, high school and college, I used to use big words and words that aren't used regularly in normal human conversation. And that's one of the words that we were just talking about. And we authors like to use it too. For some reason, we as humans think that big words make us sound smarter or looks better in a storyline, essay, whatever, and we just tend to use big words. I fuss all the time because authors use big words and words that you don't normally say in a regular conversation. How many times has anyone ever said the word gasp? Like you're gasping for breath, or in past tense, gasped. That is a hard word to say. Nina, Blake's coming for you. That bitch is gonna get your spot. I think we had a good group tonight. I just prefer to do. And if you were in here earlier, Carly and I were talking about her books. She keeps about 15 different series going at once. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not by much. And I have a hard time keeping up with all of her books because hers, you actually kind of, it helps if you read hers in order. They really do kind of go hand in hand. And so I'm just trying to wait till she gets through with those series and then I'll read the whole thing at once. Nina, Vincey done got your spot. Dallas is, I mean, Blake's coming for you next. Dallas, you got to blame this one on Nina. I didn't know anything about this, but I told her I want some more. I love these little books. These are good books. These are real books. So Sunday. And what do I have? Sunday. I know that I'm reading, the book is called Mayfly Hollow, but Lord, honey, you are a writing process whore. That is for sure. But I'm kind of pissed at you right now, Carly, because you drank without me last night. Okay, so Sunday. What is her name? Anne Shanley. Mayfly Hollow. It looks like a little sweet book. So, but I can't remember. I remember telling Nina I needed to read it though. Psst. Oh, you didn't have, that's why you got it, is because you were set back and kept your mouth shut. All righty, everybody. The next time you see me, my hair will probably be purple or pink or somewhere in between because this shit is going away. My 89-year-old father-in-law told me this week that I am too young to have this much gray hair. So I'm going back to my color. Yes. So, all right, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you here Sunday, 1:00 Eastern. And I will talk at you later. Have a great weekend and happy reading.